Kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow, kick the flow.
It's just unconscionable to me, and it's un-British, and it's unnerving, and it's alarming, and I sense very much the panic that exists amongst a portion of the public at the moment, a large portion of the public, who are not only worried about the virus and what we're up against with the pandemic, but really worried about the kind of life that we're being offered after this, which is irrecognizable to the one that we knew before.
And of course, you're right, but I listened to Sir Graham Brady, head of the 1922 committee, a Conservative, who's even more kind of dismissive of this whole thing than you are. I'm
not dismissive of anything.
No, I don't. Sorry, I didn't mean it in terms of that. I mean, worried about where we're going is what I meant to say, right? He's even more worried, and certainly, you know, he's been very, very vocal about the powers that any government has, and we would look at any state in some far-off area and describe it as disgusting what's happening. But my question to you would be, is there an alternative?
Completely, there's an alternative, and you know, it's people like Sir Graham Brady who are actually doing their jobs, and I, you know, really kind of tear my hair out about the complacency that there has been on some parts, on some of the benches in Parliament over, you know, what's going on here, from the basic point of scrutinising some of these laws that are going through.
It's not an area where I think people should be being concerned at this point in time. Second point to make, of course, is that the first several tiers of this, which have been laid out, are people in their 80s and their 70s, healthcare workers with significant health problems, then people in their 60s and 50s. And for them, this is absolutely, obviously, not something for most of them they're going to be thinking about. What we need people to remember is that there is a very substantial risk from this virus, particularly in these groups. What we have is one vaccine that has already been given authorization for emergency use, and two others that are under consideration at the moment for emergency use at different stages of the process. And we must get these vaccines out to those who are the most at risk, because if we don't do that, this situation where older and more vulnerable people can get sick and end up in hospital and in some cases sadly die is going to be a continual process. So we really must concentrate on trying to achieve that.
When the NHS calls, having the vaccine is the best way to protect yourself, to protect those around you, and to protect your community. So I hope when they call, you take up the offer. Thank you very much indeed, Becky. The next question is from Hugh Pym from the BBC. Hugh. It's from Vicky Young.
It is. Hugh's not with us at the moment. Can I ask you, first of all, given the rapid rise in cases we're seeing in some areas of the country, should you be rethinking plans to relax the rules over Christmas? And a question to Professor Whitty as well. Are you comfortable with the plans for Christmas? And secondly, news today of a new variant of coronavirus will sound very alarming to lots of people watching at the moment. Could you tell us a little bit more about it and some of the possible repercussions there might be from it?
Thanks very much, Vicky. As I said in the response to Ryan, I think it's important that all of us are cautious ahead of Christmas and very careful in terms of the contact that we have, especially with people who we know are vulnerable to this disease, which of course includes older people and those who have clinical conditions that make them vulnerable. So it is our personal responsibility to make sure that we follow that. But at the same time, we do understand, especially after such a difficult year, why people want to get together with their families and their loved ones over Christmas. Chris?
I'll make a brief comment on Christmas. Professor Fenton might also want to add to that, and then I'll just talk about the new variant, since that's new information today. I mean, on Christmas, I think all of us know, and there's no secret about this, that Christmas is a period of greater risk, and the festive season more generally is a period of greater risk. But at the same time, what we've tried to do, all of us as society, is trying to find this really difficult balance between doing things that are the least damaging we can achieve whilst keeping the virus under control, walking that really narrow path. And there was a strong sense, I think, from many people that allowing those who wanted to get together at Christmas, provided they understood the risks involved in that, and provided we really take this seriously before Christmas, reduce the risk as much as possible going into it during the Christmas festive season, and then afterwards, this is something which, in a sense, tries to strike that balance. But of course, it's a period of risk, and that's the reason we want people to take it very seriously and go no further than they have to. In terms of the new variant, the reason this has been picked up is because there is a good surveillance system in the UK, wider than in many other countries, and it does appear to be in an area of the country, particularly Kent and bits of London, which are increasing rapidly. Now, we don't know what's cause and effect. Is it getting more frequent because it's in a part of the country which the rate of increase is going faster anyway, and therefore inevitably it's a higher proportion, or is it that this virus itself is possible to transmit more easily? That isn't really yet clear. There are two other things you always want to worry about with a new variant. The first one is three things actually. The first one is there any evidence this is actually more dangerous? And there's no evidence for that at the moment. There's no evidence that if you catch this variant, you're more likely to have severe disease than if you catch different variants. The second question is it invisible to the tests we have? And the short answer is no. The current tests work against this variant. They might have, some of them might have one bit of the testing might be slightly less effective, but most of the tests will work completely normally. Most and the other ones will work, we think, normally as well. And the third question, given that we now have a vaccine around the corner, is would we expect this to reduce the effectiveness of a vaccine? And I think the thing to remember with this is we don't yet have a vaccine deployed, and there's relatively little, still a quite
longer an excuse. And unconscious bias, from my understanding, having had the upbringing and the education that I had no idea that what it was. I had no idea it existed. And then, sad as it is to say, it took me many, many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes.
Yesterday I spoke to a lady called Melanie. Melanie touched me. Why? Because Melanie rang in response to a guy called Lee. It's slightly unrelated, but who feels it knows it. Melanie admitted until she had experienced a particular thing, and in this instance it's a financial hardship for herself, she had no understanding or empathy indeed of how other people could possibly get into that situation.
I would have said that families need to cut their cloth according to what they've got, and if you've got kids then it's your responsibility to feed them. I would have said all of that. I've never ever thought that I might need help feeding my children or my family, but as the months go on and my husband is involved in the pub trade and I'm a fitness instructor, we're starting to worry and be concerned about our financial situation when that has never happened to us before. And I'm suddenly thinking I might be one of those people eventually who might need some support, and I could cut my allowance according to my cloth, but my cloth is getting smaller and smaller.
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what this subject is about. I know it is a subject, so it could be about the fact that this prince